Most conversations stay surface level because people ask lazy questions. In this video, you'll learn how to master the art of questions so you can unlock more meaningful conversations, whether it's at work, with clients, or with people you care about. I'll start with the simplest question upgrade that changes everything. If we haven't met before, I'm Jen. I have 20 years experience in helping leaders to develop and become more efficient. If this is the type of information that you need, go ahead and hit the like button to let me know. So let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking that was fine, but not really memorable? Like you talked, but you really didn't connect. Here's the truth that most people realize: the quality of your conversations is really determined by the quality of your questions. Once you understand how to ask better questions, everything changes. Your relationships get deeper, people enjoy talking to you more, and conversations stop feeling awkward and start feeling meaningful. In this video, I'm going to show you how to master the art of asking questions step by step in a way that feels natural, friendly, and powerful. First of all, why do questions matter? Most people think conversations are about what you say, and they're not. They're about what you ask because questions do something incredibly powerful. They invite people to open up. And think about it. If you only make statements, the conversation stays one sided. When you ask thoughtful questions, you create space. Space for stories and emotions and real connection. I hear people say, I'm not a people person. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to have fun. I am here to do a great job and get paid for it. And while that is true, one of the things that you have to realize is regardless of what industry you are in, you're always in the people business. You work with people. And the people that you have strong relationships with are the ones that you work more efficiently with. So it's so important to have those personal connections, which starts with your conversations. That's the difference between just talking and sharing information and having a meaningful, purposeful conversation. I told you our first tip was going to be one that was going to help you immediately. So let's quickly fix what most people are doing wrong. Mistake number one: asking surface level questions. You know, so what'd you do? Where are you from? How's your day? When we ask these questions, most of the times we get the answers that people have said a million times already. And honestly, how's your day? Who doesn't answer it with, oh, fine? They're not bad questions, but they don't go deep enough and they don't build relationships or connections. Make sure that when you are asking questions, they are ones that invite people to actually answer. Not just a surface question that can be answered with a word or two, like, what do you do? More deep questions that really get them to open up and express themselves. So, you're in communications. That is a fascinating field. What's the biggest challenge that you've had in this field? Or what's your favorite thing about communications? Those types of questions give them the opportunity to share about themselves, and it gives both of you a chance to understand each other more deeply. Mistake number two is the rapid fire questioning. If you're just asking question after question after question, it feels like an interview. And an interview isn't something that leads to connections and conversation. So make sure that you're not running through a list of questions, but you're actually listening to them. And it is okay to ask more questions, but make sure that you're having conversation in between them or even giving them a chance to ask you questions. So, mistake number three is not listening. And this one is huge. So many people, when they're having conversations, will ask a question and then wait for their turn to talk. And they're not really listening to the answer to the question or to even potentially what people didn't say, which can be so powerful if you're listening to what is being said versus maybe what they didn't say. And if this is a tip that you would like more on, put it in the comment section so that I know and I can make a video for you in the future. But keep in mind that if you're not truly listening, even if you ask another question, it won't feel natural. Or you could end up asking a question that doesn't quite make sense with what they just said. People can feel when you're not genuinely interested in what they have to say. And so it's so important that you spend the time listening to specifically what it is they're saying, how are they answering your question, and how are you building on the information that they're giving you in answering the question. Now, one of the biggest superpowers of questioning technique is asking open-ended questions. An open-ended question is a question that can't be answered with just a yes or a no. It requires them to really give more information in their answer. A closed-ended question is, do you like your job? That could easily be answered with yes or no. So instead of asking that, ask something that is more open-ended. What do you enjoy most about your job? Can you see the difference there? It's giving them the space to share more information. The first question, it does feel like that interview technique and it shuts the conversation down. The other type of question opens up the conversation. Open-ended questions give people the room to express themselves, and that's where the connection happens. Let's make this a little more practical. You may be saying, hey, these tips are great, but how do I actually use them? Well, here's your game plan. You can look at these 5 types of powerful questions and figure out which ones fit the scenario you're in. So the first one is the experience-based question. These are questions like, what was that like for you? How did that feel? So you can see these experience-based questions are asking them about their experience in a particular situation. And they're open-ended questions, so it invites that connection. You also have story-driven questions. How did that happen? What led you to that? Again, great open-ended questions. Now, be very careful with your story-driven questions by asking the word why. Sometimes when we say why, it feels like we are accusing or that we think they've done something wrong. Why would you do that? So be careful with that. But if you're doing story-driven questions, they really open up the conversation because people love telling stories. Now, the third type of question is the perspective question. What do you think about that? How do you see it? Or you could even say, what's your perspective on this? This gives them the chance to give their opinions, and it shows that you really care and that their opinions matter. Now, expansion questions are ones that continue and grow the conversation. Tell me more about that. Now, I know, technically that's not a question, it's a statement. But in this case, it is acting as a question. Or you could ask, what happened next? Oh, what did you do? How did that turn out? Giving questions that helps them to expand on the conversation that you're already having. And this keeps the conversation flowing naturally. And then our last type is the reflection question. So what did you learn from doing that? Would you do anything differently next time? These are ones that give the other person a chance to really look deeply into themselves and share more about themselves. Maybe it's their learning process or something that they discovered about themselves. It gives them a chance to really kind of think deeply, and this can really lead to a more meaningful dialogue. If you just start using these 5 types, you're going to instantly start having great conversations. Now you know the types of questions to ask, but here's where most people miss the magic, and that is great questions don't come from a script. While we've talked about some potential questions you can ask, you really need to be in the moment, which means you have to listen deeply. Really listen to the person that you're speaking with, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but actually paying attention, because when you listen carefully, the next question can become obvious. For example, if someone says, I just moved to a new city, you could ask, oh, cool, where? But that's a close ended question. They could answer it with the name of the city and be done. So, a better question would be, what's been the biggest adjustment for you? So, you see how open ended question, they could share their experiences, and then you want to listen deeply to that and potentially ask questions based on what they share. Instead of a surface level conversation, you're going to have one that really shows meaning, which is going to lead to a real life conversation flow. So, I've given you quite a few tips, and using them all could feel new and maybe even a bit uncomfortable, but that's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Start small, ask one question better today, and then another tomorrow. And then over time, this will become second nature. And as you continue doing this, people will feel that you hear them. And quite honestly, that is a rare skill, and people appreciate it so much when they run across others who can have great conversations with great questions. If you found this video helpful, share with someone that you feel could use this. Also, don't forget to check into the description and the pinned comment below for additional resources that can help you as you work on this skill. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.